Welcome to Ideas for the Pursuit of Excellence, and we really do mean excellence and not mediocrity with a quality label on it. So, we operate in multiple areas. At the behest of major reinsurance companies, we look at in-depth problems that hinder the pursuit of excellence and increase risk. And this month, we're looking at transportation. The operator and the digital systems designed inside of vehicles which are connected with distracted driving. When the subject of distracted driving comes up, it's become a very large issue for vehicle manufacturers, drivers and their insurers. And lots of focus has been made on driver issues. But what about the design of the vehicle? Especially the digital information dash systems that gives the driver all the information he wants or requests. And when you really look at digital systems, they're very cheap to install compared with the old analog type systems, but there is the rub. They can give lots of different information, anything that the manufacturer considers the driver needs, but it doesn't really have the pre-thought due diligence and the history of analog systems. People are different. As this site changes from ability to age to not everybody has perfect vision. Design dash designs need to take this into account, especially with traffic and weather conditions that affect concentration. Focal awareness is a large issue. In perfect condition and low traffic, good roads, focal awareness, as we call it, is high. But as both form and deteriorate, it drops off steeply, and the digital design should not assume that in high focal awareness and low focal awareness, the information pertaining to the driver is exactly the same, because it is not. As focal awareness becomes low, and you're going into poor driving conditions, poorer roads, more concentration needed, very essential information is needed to be delivered to the driver, but other information the manufacturer may call essential is in actual fact not. Let's look here at focal awareness and what it's actually looking at. Vehicle design should understand that as focal awareness drops off, then primary information and secondary information need to be balanced and changed as well. Primary information is basically the primary information which is in the focal plane right in front of the driver. And that is what we call the essential information. If you looked at vehicle dash and said, what do I really need to see in this driving condition that I'm in? You'll find that the information is grouped in two different sets. One is essential and the other one is secondary. Do you really need to know that the seatbelt light is working or not? Do you really need to know that the airbag is functioning or not? Do you really need to know the compass direction? Do you really need to know the outside temperature? What you really need to know is some essential information. And that essential information needs to be grouped right into the primary focal vision and not the peripheral vision. Because there again, as you get tired, your high focal awareness changes to low focal awareness. And as you get to low focal awareness, more and more essential information needs to prioritize over the direct primary view of the operator. The percentages of this are fairly easy to understand. When your primary focus is high, the essential information related to secondary and the primary and peripheral needs to be about 60-40. But as you get tired or as the driving conditions apply more pressure, the amount of essential information contained in the primary area needs to go up into the 80s and 90s, and all of the peripheral vision stuff, which is secondary information, should dissipate down to the 10 percentile and 20 percentile. Also, when you look at color, it's very frequent today you find different colors on different information systems within the dash itself. But this again, the same focal awareness applies with colour. When your focal awareness is high and you're nice and relaxed, you can have many ungrouped colours in different circumstances, which do not overwhelm the driver. Now, as you get tired and your focal awareness changes, you need fewer colour indications that are prioritised that it is actually essential information that they're supplying. And let's also forget, there's drivers with different colour senses, colour agnosia, or any colour deficiency, where they might not see colour as colour, they might see it as black and white. Safe visual systems need to be able to change accordingly. Let's now move on and look inside of an actual test vehicle and explain this in more depth. This is a 2016 Subaru Impreza, and we're going to see how it stacks up on a vehicle life safety index and how that vehicle digital design should understand the difference between primary, what the driver is looking at straight ahead, nice and relaxed, and peripheral, where the driver has to turn his head or change his concentration focus. So as you look into the front of our Subaru Impreza, you'll find the primary area, which is listed in green. The first major primary is where the driver's eyes look forward into the primary area. As the operator has to turn his head to the right, then other peripheral information zones come up. And the other one is basically from the center line, basically down to and around to the side windows. We're looking through the front at the moment because don't forget, this is digital information areas that are aiding the driver or operator in all sorts of weather conditions. Now, the second peripheral bank is right below the steering column, where the driver has to basically dip their head to look under the wheel to see the second peripheral area. The third peripheral area in this Subaru Impreza is everything which is on the right of the steering wheel, and the driver has to change their focus or change their eye to see something that's going on there. So here we are again. Now we're going to take a look at real estate that's dedicated to essential and secondary information, because that's basically what the Life Safety Index is composed of. Digital information real estate needs to be designed so that the rules of vision, primary and secondary, plus data, main and peripheral, are understood. Main is essential. That's the essential information the driver needs all the time in their primary field of vision without changing that to a secondary aspect and looking at it through their peripheral vision. Now, it's understood that relation to driving conditions and the simple primary basic rules should never have been placed in peripheral areas. Many radio designs are made with primary information display but placed in a peripheral position, which is why drivers are reverting to their cell phones used in the primary area. Now let's look at this Impreza itself. In the first stage 1, we have the center gauges behind the wheel, which has 31 square inches of real estate giving information to the driver. In the top right, the center top digital position has 20 square inches. On the lower face, or the face of the radio digital control, there's 67.5 inches. So that's 118.5 inches. But the problem is less than 10% of that is in the driver's focal zone. Now let's dive into this in this 2000. Let's look at this 2000 Subaru closer. Dashboard real estate is shared, as we've said, between essential and secondary data displays. Essential information is that which the driver needs all the time, and when he gets into a crisis or poor focal awareness knows needs to take priority over any secondary information contained on the data display. Essential data is of primary importance. Let me say that again. The driver must be able to see and understand this rapidly in all types of weather and road conditions. Secondary data is everything else. It's nice to have, but not required for safe driving. And there's a ratio of relationship to this, because adequate vehicle life safety of a dash real estate for all types of driving conditions is supposed to be a minimum of 60% given to essential information versus 40% given to secondary displays. This is in high visibility, low stress situations. When the focal awareness drops off, this then goes into low visibility, high stress areas. The essential information in the primary area needs to accelerate to the 80-90 percentile, whereas all the secondary and the peripheral information should drop off to 20%. Now, as you can see from this Subaru Dash examination, essential information in area A consists of 15%, which is basically the fuel gauge and the speed that the driver is traveling. There is nothing else within that information that the driver needs to know in a critical situation, so 85% of all that information, RPM and mileage to go, and even the park indicator and the various other little tiny warning lights which are spread around, which have no meaning to the driver whatsoever. Second place is essential information is actually 0, and this is in the peripheral, so it's not too bad. But all of the information contained in the small pop-up, the time, when it's in there, clock, again, it's duplicating how much gas you've got left. And in the first area, of course, one of the things we didn't mention is a large amount of that dash area in area A is actually given up to fuel efficiency. And it's surely a nice piece of information, but it's not something that is central to life and safety and is going to cause the driver to have an accident. Then we come to the final area, which is the biggest display area, which is area C. And this information there is all secondary. It could be essential information if the systems work properly, because that's actually where your map and navigation systems could go. But this again is problematical, because if that dash area is used as a navigation system, what you will actually come across there is the driver is looking at away from essential area, away from his primary focal area, to a secondary data information stack, which is in his peripheral vision, and that is dangerous. Now, let's look at this Subaru and do a vehicle life safety analysis, because what we found is that 93% of the information maintained in this digital cluster is secondary. 7%, that's all, is dedicated to essential information, which is in the side of the lower spec. So it's not difficult to understand that with a ratio of 7% to 93%, the wrong way, it's very easy for this information cluster to distract the driver with erroneous or secondary information. And that is a major problem. By comparison, another vehicle that was tested was a 1993 Volvo 245. And okay, so it's a Volvo, so it's old. Volvo have been renowned for this. But the vehicle life safety index for that Volvo of many 20, 30 years ago was 90 to 10. An extremely safe ratio, and the clusters were designed in such a way that you could basically prioritize from your primary vision all the information you needed for bad driving or stress driving areas. As we've seen with our 2016 Subaru and its impeccably wonderful advanced dashboard, you cannot do that. Now let's go on. And when a vehicle is in an accident, part of the post-accident review from the insurers, and this is, the police have made a report, somebody's passed it up the chain. There are groups of insurers that are basically examining digital display systems to see what information the driver was seeing at the time of the accident. And yes, this is focusing also on cell phones as well, but it's also looking at the digital systems of the car, which in many extent are operating interlinked with the cell phone, or in many instances it's actually in opposition to the cell phone itself. And we actually became involved in this because we were doing some work for the NTSB, and it's regarding pilot distraction. And pilots are having exactly the same issues because digital displays are not made with the same care and intensity of analog displays. They can display a ton more information, but the problem is nobody's actually sat down and defined what that information is and how should it be rated. The obvious drive for the insurance companies and the advanced manufacturers are that the digital displays need to change between high focal awareness, lots of information, to low focal awareness and very limited amount of secondary information, but a high priority on essential information. And it's interesting that Tesla is one of the most advanced looking at this, because they're monitoring this from their advanced driving systems, and the car will actually be defining that I'm in the rain, I'm in heavy traffic, so even though the operator may not be driving, or the operator might be driving, the information I need to give to the operator in the primary zone needs to be overwhelmingly essential, and I can discard the major parts of secondary information. Now, where this is going is very simple. Vehicle companies that have poor ratings in the design of vehicle digital real estate, focal awareness design will pay higher premiums than those which do not and excel. Everything in the excellent zone up here is up above the 80 percentile. Everything in the poor zone is below the 20 percentile, 20 to 40 percentile. And there you see our poor Subaru 2016 Impreza, down in the poor area with a ratio of 7 to 93 reversed for what it needs for safety. I do hope you've enjoyed this information, because this is what we do. So the next time driver distraction comes up, let's take a deeper look at the possible real cause. And this work we do in many industries, and if you've enjoyed this presentation, or if you have any questions or you would like to know more, please don't hesitate to contact us, and you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening.